Have you ever wondered why women had to fight for their right to vote? As we trace the footprints of history, we often stumble upon instances that challenge our understanding of fairness and equality. The women's suffrage movement is one such chapter, a grand struggle that marked the 19th century and forever changed the course of human rights. In the early days, the fight for women's suffrage was a whisper, a murmur of discontent that gradually grew into a roar. It was a time of great social and political upheaval, with the abolition of slavery ringing the bells of change. As the chains of bondage shattered, the question of women's rights began to echo in the minds of many. The women's suffrage movement was not born in isolation. It was inspired by the abolitionist movement, an epic struggle against the inhumanity of slavery. This was a time when the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice were being redefined. The abolition of slavery acted as a catalyst, sparking the flame of rebellion in the hearts of women. They began to question their roles in society, their lack of rights, and their inability to vote. Why should they be denied the right to vote when they were equal contributors to society? Why should their voices be silenced in matters of governance and policymaking? Why should their roles be confined to the domestic sphere when they had so much more to offer? These questions marked the early stages of the women's suffrage movement, a struggle that was about more than just the right to vote. It was about recognition, about respect, and about equality. It was a battle against societal norms, against prejudice, and against injustice. It was a fight for dignity, for identity, and for freedom. Before we delve further into this captivating history, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. As we continue our journey through time, we will uncover the trials and triumphs of the women who dared to question, who dared to fight, and who dared to change the world. It all gained momentum at the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848. In the heart of New York, a small group of women and men gathered for what would become a landmark event in the battle for women's rights. This was the Seneca Falls Convention, the first of its kind, a bold, groundbreaking gathering aimed at addressing the social, civil, and religious rights of women. At the helm of this monumental gathering were 5 women, among them Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. Fueled by their shared belief in gender equality, they orchestrated a meeting that attracted around 300 attendees, both men and women, a testament to the burgeoning interest in and support for women's rights. One of the most significant outcomes of this convention was the Declaration of Sentiments. Drawing inspiration from the Declaration of Independence, the sentiments echoed the same sentiments of equality and unalienable rights, but this time, for women. It was a bold proclamation, a rallying cry for women's suffrage, and a blueprint for the fight for women's rights. The Declaration of Sentiments was penned by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. It outlined 18 grievances and 11 resolutions, calling out the injustices suffered by women. Among these were the denial of the right to vote, lack of access to education and professional opportunities, and the double standards in marriage and divorce laws. It was a comprehensive document, a powerful indictment of the systemic inequality women faced. Perhaps the most controversial resolution was the 9th, demanding women the right to vote. It sparked heated debate even among the convention attendees, reflecting the societal resistance to the idea of women's suffrage. However, through the persuasive efforts of Stanton and Frederick Douglass, a prominent abolitionist and supporter of women's rights, the resolution was ultimately passed. The Seneca Falls Convention was a turning point, setting the stage for a battle that would last more than 70 years. It marked the beginning of organized, collective action for women's rights, a fight that would eventually lead to the passage of the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. The echoes of this convention can still be heard today in our continued struggle for gender equality. As the 20th century approached, the struggle for women's voting rights became more intense. In the United States, the fight for suffrage was a simmering pot ready to boil over. It was during this time that various groups formed, all with a common goal: to secure the right to vote for women. One such group was the National American Woman Suffrage Association, or NASA. It was formed by merging 2 existing organizations, both championing women's suffrage. The NASA became a pivotal force, mobilizing and coordinating efforts across the country, strategizing political campaigns, and advocating for legislative changes. Its influence was immense, and it played a significant role in intensifying the fight for women's voting rights. Key figures in the movement, such as Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, were instrumental during this time. Anthony, a social reformer and women's rights activist, was not just a figurehead, she was a force of nature. Her tireless campaigning, public speaking, and civil disobedience were a beacon for the movement. She was once arrested for voting in the 1872 presidential election, a bold act of defiance that highlighted the injustice faced by women. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, on the other hand, was a brilliant strategist and an eloquent speaker. She helped organize the Seneca Falls Convention, the first women's rights convention, and co-founded the NASA with Anthony. Stanton's writings and speeches provided the intellectual backbone of the suffrage movement. She was a driving force behind the push for a constitutional amendment granting women the right to vote. The turn of the century marked a shift in the women's suffrage movement. The fight was no longer just about the right to vote. It was about equality, justice, and the recognition of women as full citizens. This was a tumultuous time filled with passion, determination, and relentless activism. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, do remember to like and subscribe. Finally, after decades of tireless struggle, the moment of victory arrived. The year was 1920, a year that would forever be etched in the annals of history. It was in this year that the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was passed, finally granting women the right to vote. The journey to this moment was not easy, but the women who fought for this right were not deterred by the obstacles they faced. They understood that their cause was just, and that their struggle would have far-reaching effects. They were right. The passing of the 19th Amendment was not just a victory for the women of that era. It was a victory for all women, for all future generations. The significance of this victory cannot be overstated. It was a monumental step forward in the fight for gender equality. For the first time, women were recognized as equal citizens in the eyes of the law, with the same right to vote as men. This was a radical shift in societal norms and a powerful statement of women's rights. But the impact of this victory extended far beyond the realm of voting rights. It was a catalyst that sparked further feminist movements. It inspired women to continue fighting for their rights, to challenge traditional gender roles, and to strive for equality in all aspects of life. The 19th Amendment was a beacon of hope, a symbol of what could be achieved through determination, courage, and resilience. The women's suffrage movement was not just about securing the right to vote. It was about challenging the status quo and fighting for a world where women were treated as equals. It was about proving that women's voices mattered, that they had a role to play in shaping the future of their country. The victory of the women's suffrage movement was not the end of the fight for gender equality. It was just the beginning. But it was a powerful beginning, a testament to the strength and determination of women. It was a victory that paved the way for future feminist movements and forever changed the landscape of women's rights. The women's suffrage movement changed the course of history, paving the way for gender equality. The women's suffrage movement left a profound legacy. It ignited a spark, a flame of equality that continues to burn brightly in the 21st century. It marked the beginning of a journey that continues today, a journey towards complete gender equality. The suffrage movement was more than just a fight for the right to vote. It was a fight for recognition, for respect, and for equality. It was a fight against the notion that women were less capable, less deserving, or less worthy. It was a fight that challenged the status quo and opened doors that were once firmly shut. Today, we continue to fight. We fight for equal pay, for equal representation, for equal opportunities. We fight against discrimination, against misogyny, against prejudice. We fight because we aren't there yet. Despite the progress we've made, we still have a long way to go. But as we fight, we remember. We remember the suffragettes who paved the way, who stood against injustice, who demanded change. We remember their courage, their determination, their perseverance. We remember their sacrifices, their struggles, their victories. We remember them because they inspire us, because they remind us of what we're fighting for, because they show us what we can achieve. We honor the suffrage movement by continuing their fight, by standing up for what's right, by refusing to be silenced, by demanding equality, not just in words but in action. We honor them by voting, by using the right they fought so hard for, by making our voices heard, by standing up for what we believe in, by being the change we want to see. The fight for women's rights continues, inspired by the brave women who fought for the right to vote. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content.